Hello, dear attendees. Thank you for joining the webinar. And today I'm going to talk about the HR software for growing companies. I will explain some things that I understand or I advise or I hear from my customers when they need a new HR system or they need their first HR system. So anyway, my experience will be based on many years of communicating to my potential clients who turned into actual deals and not, but anyway, approximately a few thousand stories. So let's go ahead. My name is Alexei. I'm the account executive at Lanteria, and I have over 9 years of experience in helping companies choosing their HR tools, HRM systems, different modules, talent management, and anything like that. By the way, very soon it will be 10 years, which is awesome. So, okay, there we go. I would like to say just a couple of words about the company I work for, the company I've been working for since spring 2013. So Lanteria is a company which is 16 years old, and the company has always been in the HR development or HRMS development or HRMS software area. I know that before we launched the first version of our product in 2009, the company before myself, the company was working in this area, but doing some custom orders. Since then, we have launched over 250 projects around the globe, mostly middle to large, I would say. We never tried to have thousands of active customers because each customer was actually the full implementation with customization, configuration, so tailoring the products to their needs. We operate in 40 plus countries at the moment, and the total headcount of employees in all the companies that are currently supported by Lanteria or that currently use Lanteria HR system is 200,000 plus. So you can see some examples of our customers, maybe a few famous organizations like Warner Brothers, Lufthansa, Sega, Leica, Lockheed Martin, by the way, and United States Postal Service. Just a few words about my experience. So like I said, I've been doing this for over 9 years now, and I think that during my pre-sale activities, I have had a chance to chat to over 2,000 leads, middle and large businesses, at least businesses with more than 50 employees. Let's talk that way. I will try to recall what I heard from them. Of course, not all few thousands, just maybe things that repeat from customer to customer, most common things. And like I said, my experience is based on those companies looking for their first HRMS or looking to change their HRMS to something better, closer to the business needs, maybe more affordable, and anything like that. So why companies are looking for a new HRM system? Well, there have been many stories in the past, so maybe the common reasons are those that I need to list. So first of all, the needs may not be met any longer. Of course, the vendor may offer a client to develop new functionality, but the cost of this may be just really crazy. In some cases, the customer decides that it would be cheaper to purchase something with all the functionality available and migrate to that new system rather than paying, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of dollars for developing new custom modules. Bugs and poor support. That also sometimes happens. I've heard that from my potential customers about their previous HRM systems quite a few times. Cheaper option available, same functionality. Yes, that happens. I face that quite often. I mean, the startup company creates a cool software. They search the market, they see what other competitors have, they put a very competitive pricing. Of course, they increase the pricing in a few years, and no longer they are no longer such affordable. But until then, sometimes it happens that you can find a very affordable and very strong software. The vendor has gone out of business. That sometimes happens. I think I shouldn't explain this. So yes, this is life. Also, new HR director wants to use the same HRMS he or she used in the previous company. Yes, this also quite often happens. And in that case, I cannot say that the current, or let's say the system that is currently used in the company, it is bad. No, definitely not. But sometimes the new HR manager is very influential in the company, and this person got used to the previous HRMS, or the HRMS which was used in the previous company, and literally nobody can say no. So the company migrates to the new HRMS system. Yeah, that also happens. This is life. Is an expensive HRMS better than an affordable one? Definitely not. This is what I have already mentioned, that sometimes a startup company may create a very cool product, which will be 4 times cheaper, or maybe even more times cheaper than the products which have been on the market for a few years now. So no, cheaper doesn't mean that you purchase something really bad. No, of course not. A cheap software can be good. You should give it a try. If the software is comparatively cheap, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have some features or anything like that. Right. Okay, so the plan for today's webinar. First of all, I would like to speak about the realistic expectations. I will give a few advices based on what I've been hearing from the potential clients in the previous 9 years. Key elements for growing companies. First of all, I would like to say that I want to be speaking about exact features like you need this or another feature. I will probably speak about the HR software in general, and maybe even characteristics of the vendor, not single features. Trends in 2022, useful versus hype. I think it explains itself. What to ask from your potential vendor. Yes, also important. Stress-free data export and import. I will give some advices on that. And I will also quickly show our product, maybe 5 to 7 minutes. The product is called Lenteria HR, and that's the HR management system. Plus, today we will have our customer who promised to be present at the call, and she will tell you about her experience with Lenteria, and she's also a very experienced HR manager, so she will give some advices to the companies looking for their next HRM system or first HRM system. Okay, so one more comment. Yeah, quite important. That's personally my opinion. I really may be wrong, but I think that when you actually start selecting the HRM system, you should ask somebody who either had experience with these systems before, or I would even say you should ask some HR consultant, because I've seen it quite a few times that the IT manager of the company or anybody else selects the HR system based on the ideal set of features, ideal infrastructure. Maybe this system is ideal from the data security standpoint, something like this. But when the HR manager starts to work with that system, and this HR manager never selected this system, it may be not always usable. So the end user of the HR system ideally should be the HR manager. So it would be good to either ask your HR manager, or maybe even pay some HR consultant so he or she could help you search for such system. But again, this is the HR system. So before you pay money to the vendor, I recommend talking to the HR person. All right. So first, your realistic expectations. First of all, quite often I hear from the clients that they need a system that needs to have that feature, another feature, and so on. Well, sometimes you may find the HR software which will be doing things that normally are not done in the HR software. I don't know, for example, sometimes I'm asked if our HR system produces invoices. It actually does not. I think it's more a component of an ERP or CRM system. But anyway, you should first of all think which tasks you plan to resolve using the HR system, because you may expect that some feature must be in the HR system because you think so. But in reality, after you pay for this HR software subscription, you realize that some features are not there. So please think what you need and then check that it is actually in there. Vendor or HR consultant. That's also quite a frequent thing that I meet. A vendor, I mean, the main task of the vendor is to know their HR software perfectly well, being able to configure it, to support it, to address your issues, customize it per your needs. But I don't think that it's an obligation for the vendor to keep an internal team of HR consultants, right? So they can obviously advise on the best practices and do it all instead of you. Advise what HR processes you should be using, which forms are best for your type of business, and so on and so forth. Maybe some vendors provide that, but in general, I recommend that you have a specialist in your team that very well knows your procedures, and then you just communicate those procedures and configurations to the vendor's representative. Again, the representative of a vendor may be a technical person supporting your needs, but that person may not have experience in HR, at least not a very deep experience. Bugs and issues, almost any software has bugs. I mean, I use several ERPs from quite famous providers, or maybe several CRMs, sales management systems, and they also may have bugs. I mean, if you think that the software doesn't have them, probably you have not really implemented 100% of functionality, and you are not using it extensively. So bugs are, I wouldn't say they are okay, but that's quite a typical thing that happens. And I mean, there may be critical bugs, system down or very slow. Yeah, I understand this is terrible, but some small bugs. I mean, if this does not doesn't break the work which you do day to day, then it shouldn't be a trouble. Bugs happen from time to time. Lightning fast setup. This is something that customers ask me all the time. I mean, customers or maybe some vendors promise that the system can be launched up and running tomorrow morning. Some customers also expect that, but I would say that after the system is open for your company, installed, or maybe you have a cloud subscription, somebody has to set up the processes, forms, and so on, and nobody can guarantee that the software, even if it is expensive, has absolutely all possible workflows, templates, and forms used by any type of business, by any size of a company. No, of course not. So you should be able to prepare for a few months of implementation. Of course, even we had cases when the system was implemented in 1 week. But that's a very ideal scenario when the customer is not a large company and they exactly love your functionality. They don't want to change anything at all. In that case, you just open the system, you upload the data, you provide a series of trainings for the customer. That's it, end of story. But again, that doesn't happen all the time, and you should be ready that the system may not be really usable tomorrow. It may take several months sometimes. Key HRMS elements for growing companies. Again, please forgive me for that. I probably won't be concentrating on exact features, telling you that this report is very much needed for any company, or that feature is very much critical. In general, I will talk about my overall view of the software and of the HRM system vendors. So first of all, scalability. Since the webinar is dedicated to companies who are most likely growing because they finally have decided to purchase an HR system, or they are changing the HR system to something more advanced. The system must be scalable. Sometimes companies grow very fast, like one company can merge with another company, and it's a normal scenario when company grows from 100 people to 500 people in just a few years. It happens all the time, and believe me that it's not only about the employee records in the system, but also employees will be registering absences. They will be having performance reviews. They will be storing certificates, some other documentation. They will be having possibly some salary history. So 500 people can really add a few, I don't know, 1,000 records very, very quickly into the system. And the system should be able to support all that, because you wouldn't like to face the situation when you had 100 employees, then you started growing, you purchased a new HR system, and then in 2 years you have to purchase another one because this HR system can no longer support more than 10,000 items in the library, right? So you should check that the system is scalable. Strong data protection, very important. In some regions, it is that much important. I mean, people or employees sometimes can start a legal case, against their company just because somebody seen their salary, somebody who should not have seen their salary. Because of that, I mean, and the financial punishments are really large in some companies. You should really care about data protection. When you have just a few employees, that's not that critical, but when you have a few hundred or maybe even a few thousand employees, you should really purchase a software that has all the required certifications, and the vendor should be able to prove that the data protection works very well in that particular software systems, especially that if the growth of your company is not just the growth in one country, but if you open foreign offices, those regions may have their own data security rules. So the software anyway should be very strong in this regard, because, I don't know, you open an office in Europe, and here in Europe, we have GDPR, which is very strong. And believe me, you wouldn't want to break it. Okay, so clear SLA conditions. The company will be growing, and you should clearly understand how your issues will be supported, how soon you can hear some reply from the support team. So ask for the document with SLA conditions before you even made a decision and paid any money to the vendor. Globalization, the system must have a package of at least most popular or most widely used languages, plus a possibility of creating custom fields and sections. For example, in some country, you will have one list of absences, and in another country, you will have different absences, cultural, religious absences, or anything like that. The system should be able to support that. Customization, I can tell you that absolutely any customer of Lenteria who used to grow, they all needed custom development, regardless of whether you have more employees in one country or you are opening offices in foreign countries. You will need custom development. It's just a question of whether you need to customize something for $1,000 or $10,000. But when the company grows, the company needs some new custom features. That is happening all the time. You should ask the vendor if they allow customizations. I wouldn't say that this happens often, but sometimes I hear from my potential customers that the reason why they could not use the previous HR system was because the vendor said, like, this is the scope of the reports that we offer, and you can just accept it or go and find another system, because we will not be customizing our reports just for one customer or couple customers. So again, sometimes it may happen that the customization is not really possible. You should check if it is. Mobile app, well, I promise not to talk about features, but that's actually a feature, but it is very important. Today, people can work from anywhere, and they should be able to register an absence very easily. If the person is going to the doctor he or she should be able to make a photo of the certificate that he or she is actually sick, and being able to attach that certificate using the mobile device in the system. So anyway, mobile app is absolutely critical. It is very much important. Okay, so HRMS trends in 2022, useful versus hype. Let's go into there. That's only my opinion. I'm not saying that my opinion is absolutely correct. It's just something I have noticed. Like the vendor may be promising something to you, but I will tell you what promises I hear the most often and what I think about them, which ones are useful, which ones are really, I wouldn't say this is a kind of trash. No, absolutely not. But it may sound better than it appears in the real life. So support, which is 24 hours per day, 7 days per week, and 365 days per year. It sounds fantastic, but let me tell you a story. You may have a custom setup. So the system has some configurations that were ordered only by your company, or maybe by few companies who work with this vendor. So basically, let's say that it is evening right now, something like 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. You find a critical issue in your custom setup, but vendor has promised you that their support works all the day long, all the night long, and never stops. You start submitting your support issues, and they are received not by your standard support person from the vendor's side, but by somebody else who is in the different time zone, and it's working time in that time zone right now. I can tell you that if a person who has never seen your setup before starts learning it, trying to understand what's your custom setup, how to fix the bug, what happened, where your functionality conflicts with the core functionality. This won't result in a faster solution. Just believe me. It's an example that I have faced myself a few times when using famous branded software solutions, ERPs, CRMs, and so on. So in some cases, of course, if the system is down and not accessible and you need it to be up and running, probably this feature can be resolved as soon as possible by anybody from any region, city, country, whatever. But if your issue is related to your custom setup, most likely the best decision is wait until tomorrow when your standard support contact person wakes up, comes to work, and resolves your issue. It just won't, in many cases, it won't happen faster if somebody else will be resolving your issue. So eternal support service is, it sounds cool when the vendor is trying to sell something to you, but in reality, it's not actually that cool in many cases. Everything in one system. Well, also, I've heard this, I mean, so many times. The vendor comes and says, so, okay, we need the HR system, and the payroll component is absolutely a must. And we say, I mean, I used to say, okay, so we have our system, we don't have payroll, but this is our payroll partner. So you can use it with our payroll partner because there is an integration. And the customer says, no, I don't need it because my task is to find the system that has it all in one system. But I mean, if a vendor tells you that they have it all, absolutely all solutions, that sounds attractive. But believe me, today, when there are so cool APIs available, connecting two different systems is almost a couple clicks, and it works so smooth that if you found a beautiful HR system, but it doesn't have a payroll component, go and find yourself a beautiful payroll module, and then just check if they have the API, and most likely they do, or there is some universal integrator that can connect to systems, and it will be very easy to achieve. No need, I can absolutely tell you that I know that sometimes when the vendor offers you a system which has absolutely everything, absolutely. Their HR system issues invoices, does HR tasks, has payroll, and even makes good coffee. Believe me that in many cases, the vendor just doesn't have resources to support all the functionality. And one of those modules that I have mentioned may be terrible because they created it many years ago and not developed it since then. And now they have some modules that work perfectly well and other modules are really ugly. So don't be afraid to use a couple systems together using APIs. That's all the world is doing this. Local data center. Quite often customers ask if it is possible to host the system only in their country. This is okay, but I mean, if the data center is a couple time zones away from you, this is okay. Maybe there will be a difference in terms of system speed, but you won't notice it. Human being won't notice it. The only thing is that if the data protection rules are very strong and the system must be hosted in your country or like in your region or maybe in European zone, something like that. In that case, yes. But at the same time, again, if you are located in Europe, you are in one country, you shouldn't be looking for a vendor who has data centers next street. It can be in another country and will be working just as good as if it was next street. 99% automation. Well, it sounds fantastic that all your HR tasks will be absolutely automated. That's absolutely fascinating. But believe me, before this is going to work, you will have to spend so much time automating all that. You should select the responsible people, order of recipients, reminder notification rules, maybe some triggers and other things like that. If somebody changes in the team, you should change that person to the new person and so on and so forth. I mean, many businesses, when they put automation as one of the main criteria for selecting the HR system, in a few years, they just end up using some automation of the core features, not everything. So believe me, the vendor promises that 100% of functionality is automated. Most likely you won't be using that much automation. In some case, because you will see that before automating this task, you should do so much, then you will think that, okay, I will automate it this month, next month. And then next month, you will think that you will automate it next month and so on and so forth. So nobody uses 99 and 99% of automation. At least I don't know anybody. 100% self-implementation. Some vendors promise it, and some systems are very simple, so you can launch them yourself and use them next morning. But again, don't save money on consultants. You should at least, some vendors offer like small implementation packages, large implementation packages. You should purchase at least some package because this is a new software. It may look beautiful during the pre-sale process. We salespeople try to make it as beautiful as possible, but there may be some things that you will just not be able to launch yourself in any HR system. So buy at least the smallest consultancy package. Okay, questions to ask from your vendor. References, absolutely important. Make sure to speak to a couple customers. Industry experience, this is a very great benefit because there are, I mean, I work for an IT company, and I wouldn't say that there are so many things that make our company or our branch of business very, very, very specific. And one HR system can be good for us and another HR system not. But there may be branches like banking sector, for example, which require very specific approach, very specific set of features and so on. Just please check if your vendor has ever worked with a company from your area. At least if they have, they will be able to tell you some best practices. Team location, again, it's not mandatory to, find somebody exactly in your location, in your city next street, but again, make sure that the consultant who will be helping you implement the system does not sit 8 hours from you. I mean, 8 time zones from you, because in that case, the implementation will become a nightmare. You most likely won't have a chance to meet because when you are in the office, he or she has already left the office. Customization. I have already talked about that. Make sure that the software is customizable. This is critical. Data export conditions. The day will come when you decide to change the HR system. I told you the reasons Maybe your system is cool, but your company will be joined by a new HR director who will say, no, guys, I had a better HR system in the past, so we will implement that system. So anyway, make sure that the data import or export, data export can happen smooth. The vendor should be able to give you the database or spreadsheet or anything like that, but something that you can later upload into your new HRM system. Stress-free data import and export. I don't have much to say, to be honest, in here, but in general, I would like to say that when you import, I meet that quite often, by the way. The customer is looking for the HR system. They make a decision, and after they've made a decision, and they thought that they had, I don't know, 100 employees or 200 employees. After they start the implementation, it appears that they actually have 300 employees. It's not terrible. The only problem is that next morning you sign the contract. After you sign the contract, you realize that you have to pay 50% more if you counted for 200 employees. And now you realize that you have 300 employees. So in order for that not to happen, ask if it is possible. Some vendors offer that. We offer data cleaning services, as we call it. Ask if the vendor can help you preparing the data in a good shape and just helping with the data cleaning, anything like that. Export, like I said, make sure that the export features are available. Some HRMS systems may not have them, but the technical engineer of the vendor will be able to download the library and send it to you. Just do not be shy to insist. Lanteria has the data export feature, but even in the times when we didn't have the data export feature, our engineers were always happy to use a kind of custom script to download the data and send the database to the customer. Okay, give me maybe 3 to 4 minutes to show you what Lanteria is before we start the discussion with our customer, who I hope has arrived. All right, so ID Quantique, our very valuable customer. I will ask the HR manager of that company about experience with Lanteria HR and for a few recommendations. So first of all, ID Quantique works in a very specific area of business. This is quantum safe cryptography. I'm sorry, Anushka. This is really specific for myself, and this is a very nice customer from the beautiful land of Switzerland. And Anushka has been in the HR of ID Quantique since 2013. That's, by the way, very nice year. I joined Lanteria the same year, right? And as far as I remember, we have been working with ID Quantique for the last 3 years, right? So in the next page, I will ask a few questions from Anushka. Give me just a second. Can I make it larger again? Sorry, why I'm here. Just give me 1 second. Stress-free. Okay, there we go. All right, so Vlad, I hope you have enabled Anushka's microphone. Let's try to do it this way. I will be asking the question from Anushka, and we will hear Anushka's honest feedback. So I'm ready for that. So first of all, Anushka, please tell us the reasons why you actually needed any HRMS, not Lanteria, just any HRMS.
So first of all, hello to everybody. Thank you for welcoming me to this webinar. Can you hear me well?
Oh, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. So to answer your question, Alexei, it was mainly because the company went through a growth, and dealing with multiple Excel spreadsheets never up to date just drive me crazy. So it was about time to have a proper HRMS system.
Okay, that's really nice. And you probably touched that area in your previous comment a little bit, but maybe you have a kind of list of the most annoying things that happen to people who do not have the HR system. So what were your top issues?
Well, it's mainly how to keep track of the HR data, making sure that, especially if you have multiple locations, you know, once a company reach 100 employees and then if you are all in one location, you can manage your data and you can manage human resources by organizing quite often a small apéro, and you have a single coffee machine, and then you can talk to people. But once you expand, once you have the company is growing, then the complexity of HR data also grows, of course. And then the way people are managing their resources also, it's completely different from one country to another. So in order to try to align a bit and making sure that our employees are treated fairly across the globe, worldwide, it was once again a necessity to have an HRMS that employee can access, manager can access, and it's a base for them also to discuss. And in parallel to that HRMS, what we did also is we created an intranet. So now employee, whatever they are in this planet, they have always access to their data. They can report, give feedback, read their goals and KPIs, making sure they're still aligned. So, and that wasn't possible with a system. Without an HRMS, when you reach that complexity in HR management, it becomes quite impossible to do it properly.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. That's a very good explanation. And what's the overall feeling? Were employees easily getting into the system? Were they kind of not willing to use it, something like that? What was the overall feedback? Because I know that introducing a new CRM is often painful. I've faced that many times.
Correct, but in my case, in our case, it was expected, because we had so many time the issue, like the time and attendance. You know, an employee was requesting vacation. The manager says in the corridor, "Okay, you can go on vacation," but nobody keep track of that answer or report that to HR, and then it was once again becoming very difficult to keep track of data. So they were very, very happy to have a very simple software to request a vacation, to log overtime as well. So they welcome Lanteria HR, and they are still very happy to use it. The fact to have also an access to their core HR and their contract, their KPIs and data like that, it's also very valuable for them. So they embrace, and they were very happy to have an HRMS.
Oh, thank you. That's a very, very nice feedback. I think that the next point, which processes Lanteria helped to improve, actually, the previous response responded to it, but maybe apart from, I don't know, from absence management, you would like to add something about the processes that were improved?
The major processes that was drastically improved was the onboarding and offboarding processes. With the link to other departments. You know, when somebody arrives or leave the company, of course, you have to manage their access, manage their material, IT access to the servers and things like that. So the fact to be able to have a workflow that involves many departments and send notification facilitates the onboarding and offboarding processes. Then, as mentioned, the time and attendance was also a module that was welcomed and very useful to implement. Then the assessment and goal settings was also warmly welcomed from our employee, because once again, they had the impression, and it's true, that they can keep their assessment, end of year assessment, comment of their previous manager as well in one place, and they can access it easily.
No, that's cool. No, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Also, we had also a couple of good comments on the documents. Since an employee, the way you upload the documents related to an employee account, and then this employee can access via the portal of Lantaria their documents, increase also the security, because I just joined your webinar, Alexi, when you were mentioning that payrolling it's not mandatory in an HRMS, which I agree with you. I think it's two different things. But having the payslip sent by email in 2022 for a cybersecurity company was just not acceptable. So now we issue the payrolling is issuing the payslip, and then we upload that to the employee portal. And then if an employee needs the payslip, he can just go to his Lantaria account and print the payslip.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you. Thank you for that. And I would say that if we would unattach ourselves from Lantaria, and you could just, with all your experience, which is very nice in terms of HR, which maybe, I don't know, like 3 key advices you could give to people who are looking for the new HRM system, considering that the company is growing. So let's probably talk about somewhere around company with 100 people approximately.
Yeah. And that would be my first advice is, first of all, before you can save time with your new HRMS, you really have to be ready to invest a lot of time and energy, because if you don't do it right from day one, I would say, then it starts to be very complex and complicated. So start using an HRMS above 100 employee, or if you have a very specific and complex organization with few employees across many countries. But for less than 100 employee, I would say that it's kind of time consuming and relatively low return on investment. Then I would say that you have to be ready to dedicate time and resources, like an internal HR project manager during the entire phases of the implementation, because this HR project manager needs to have a deep knowledge of the existing workflow or existing processes before starting the implementation. Pay particularly attention to the organizational structure as well as the reporting structure that you have in place. Once again, to make sure that the parameter you do with your HRMS from day one is a correct one, and you can improve it. But if you realize that you made a mistake, then going back and then redo everything, then it starts to be very complex.
Right.
And then I would say one of my advice would also be to be open-minded to adapt your internal processes to stick to existing processes and workflow that is already embedded in your HRMS. Because the more you want to customize the HRMS to the way you used to work, okay, it will take time, and sometimes it doesn't work so well. So be ready to adapt a bit the way you work to your new HRMS, instead of wanting to adapt and make sure that the workflow it's very similar to what you do before implementing an HRMS. This is quite impossible. So be ready to change a bit the way you work. Then I would say that my advice will also be to start with 1 or 2 modules. Don't try to implement all the modules at once, and challenge the real need for it. For each module, for instance, in Lantaria HR, you have a learning and recruiting module, which as of today, we're not using it. I'm using another job board. I'm happy with this one. It's easy to use, and I don't feel that it's needed for me to implement the recruiting module of Lenteria to be happy with my HRMS, right?
Okay, no, that's right. That's right. I agree. You know what? That's you mentioned that you should be ready to invest some time and correctly set up things so that later you don't have to return. And that's exactly what I told when I was speaking about realistic expectations of the clients. Sometimes the vendor promises that you will have absolutely 99 and 99% automation. But I remember myself starting to use many different CRMs or ERPs in my previous years working in this area. And I can tell that before that beautiful automation will perfectly well help you improve your processes, you should do so many things. Like before you automate it, you should know your process. You should set up the recipient's reminder rules, some triggers, even the number of days before something happens and the reminder is sent, right? Is it 3 days or 5? So many businesses, I'm not only talking about the HRMS, just in general about ERPs and CRMs, many businesses, when they are hooked by this advantage that some system is super automated, right? Many businesses end up using just a couple of automated features because when they think, oh, I need first to prepare all our processes, send a vendor some description, and then it all gets automated. So sometimes the customers just say, okay, I will automate core processes and everything else I can do manually. So absolutely, everybody should be ready that the implementation just doesn't happen in one night. It requires time, requires attention. All right, thank you, Anushka. That was really fantastic. My idea is that probably we can now let you go and I can jump for 3 minutes just to speak about what Lenteria HR is. So that was all. That was planned to be a part of the webinar. Then thank you, Anushka. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thanks to you.
Thank you. Goodbye. Goodbye.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Anushka. And Vlad, I think we can really spend 3 minutes just to talk about what Lenteria HR is very briefly.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah. So first of all, Lenteria is a complete HR management system from hire to retire, and it is a modular solution. So what do I mean modular? It comprises several solutions inside of it: core, time, compensation, recruiting, performance, and learning, reports, but that's not a separate module. It is included into any other module that you can see on the screen. The system is also including the self-services. This is the page of the HR, but we also have the page of the manager. We have the page of the employee where they can complete their day-to-day HR related tasks. The core module is the company chart with all the structures. Time and attendance is absences. Compensation is the module where you store the information about salary, bonuses, benefits. You run salary reviews. Recruiting, which is an ATS. Performance management, which is for goals, competencies, performance reviews, 360s, check-ins, and so on. And learning, which is for online courses and offline courses. Let me open the employee card just to show you a few screens from the system. Every employee has the access to the personal card inside of Lenteria. Actually, maybe just except for the people who are terminated, they don't have any access inside of the system. And people who are being candidates, they have a different page where they see kind of interviews, job offers, and other stuff like that. So this is the employee's card. Absolutely all procedures that the employee needs to complete, they are over here. So we've got the general information with certain sections and fields. We've got the enhanced details over here. We've got the compensation, we've got the performance, we've got the learning. Basically, Lenteria is very flexible. So if any company needs to add a section or a field, or maybe some folder or a button, that's very easy to achieve. You just need to be the admin or the HR to have the access, and go to the settings feature where you will be able to customize absolutely any field, section, button, or folder you want, just like that. And the system has a bunch of integrations. Like I said, we don't have payroll, right? But we provide integration with ADP payroll out of the box. So it can be a great benefit for the users of ADP, or we can set up the custom integration with some third-party payroll solution. The system also has reports and metrics. So in general, we've got, I don't know, maybe over 100 or maybe over 140 reports available out of the box, absolutely in all areas of the system. Some reports are graphical, so you can see progresses, different information, statistics. Some reports are tables, and you can also check them out. Let's see. I often use the learner report, so let's try that one. There we go, learner report. By the way, it may happen that some report is not there, and you really need some custom data to be incorporated into one screen. So you can go and build your custom report without any issue at all. Plus, the system has a bunch of integrations, like we work with different integrating engines, if I can say like that. For example, we work with Zapier, which has integrations to over 5,000 different applications around the globe. We work with Job Target, which can post job openings to over 25,000 different platforms, and so on and so forth. The system is based on Microsoft technology. That doesn't mean that only the heavy Microsoft users can use Lanteria, of course not. But I would say if you prefer working with Microsoft calendars, Microsoft Teams, and things like that, that will be a great benefit because Lanteria can incorporate all that. Calendars, Lanteria dashboards are available in Microsoft Teams account, and Lanteria has a synchronization with Office 365 user profiles. So once you have logged into your Office 365, you can get inside of your Lanteria space with single sign-on without any double login. That's pretty much it. So going back to my presentation, I would like to ask if you have any questions at all. Please let me know. Okay, I don't think there will be any questions anyway. All right, then. Thank you so much for your time, and for absolutely any questions, or maybe for booking the extended demonstration where I can analyze your requirements and provide the tailored demo, feel free to contact Lanteria. You can see the contact details on your screen. Thank you so much. Have a great time. Goodbye.